Dr. Maya Thompson, a respected black CEO of a community health clinic, navigates a small-town environment fraught with subtle and overt racial biases. Despite her wealth and influence, Maya faces systemic prejudice from local officials and law enforcement who unjustly scrutinize her initiatives and question her competence. As she strives to implement vital health programs, Maya encounters discriminatory actions and microaggressions that challenge her resolve. Supported by a few loyal allies, she remains composed and determined to fight against the ingrained racism threatening to undermine her efforts, setting the stage for a powerful confrontation. Dr. Maya Thompson stepped into the Morning Glory, a quaint diner nestled on the corner of Maple Street and Elm Avenue. Her presence was unassuming, yet carried an air of quiet authority. Clad in a simple navy blue cardigan over a white blouse and dark jeans, Maya blended seamlessly with the regulars who frequented the establishment. Her natural hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and her minimalistic makeup highlighted her serene demeanor. Maya's reputation extended far beyond the town's borders. As the CEO of Thompson Medical Innovations, she was a trailblazer in surgical technology and a philanthropist dedicated to providing medical care to underserved communities. Yet, despite her high-profile career and considerable wealth, Maya chose to maintain a modest lifestyle. She lived in a modest townhouse on the outskirts of town, drove a practical sedan, and spent her weekends volunteering at local clinics. Today, she was here not for business, but for a rare moment of solitude before her afternoon meeting with the town council to discuss the new community health initiative she had spearheaded. Seeking a quiet place to gather her thoughts, Maya found herself at the Morning Glory, a diner she had discovered by chance during a recent visit to the town. As she approached the counter, Maya caught the eye of Joe, the friendly owner and chef, who greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Dr. Thompson." "The usual?" Joe asked, his voice carrying genuine familiarity. Maya returned the smile, shaking her head gently. "Actually, Joe, I think I'm in the mood for something different today. How about the blueberry pancakes?" Joe's face lit up. "Coming right up? Anything to drink?" She nodded, placing her hand gracefully over her heart. "Just a black coffee, please, and maybe a slice of your homemade apple pie if you don't mind." "Of course," Joe replied, turning to prepare her order. "Take a seat by the window if you like, it's quiet this morning." Maya scanned the diner, her eyes briefly meeting those of a few regulars who nodded in acknowledgement. She chose a booth near the window, her movements deliberate and calm. As she settled into her seat, she pulled out her silver tablet, not to check emails or schedules, but to review the notes she had prepared for her meeting. Her handwriting was neat, every word carefully chosen to convey her vision for the community's health future. Across the room, a group of teenagers laughed loudly, their boisterous chatter momentarily drawing Maya's attention. She smiled inwardly, appreciating the simple joys of small-town life. Her phone buzzed silently on the table, but she chose to ignore it, preferring to savor the rare moment of peace. As Maya awaited her meal, the door swung open again, and a man entered, his presence slightly more commanding than the diner typically saw. He was tall, with a strong build and an impeccably tailored suit that hinted at a higher status. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his briefcase seemed to carry more weight than just documents. Ethan Brooks, one of the city's most respected flight attendants and the face of Sky High Airlines' new customer service campaign, made his way to the counter. Unlike Joe, Ethan wasn't a regular at the Morning Glory, but his presence didn't go unnoticed. Maya observed him for a moment, noting the subtle confidence in his stride and the way he interacted politely with Joe. Ethan glanced around, his eyes briefly meeting Maya's before he approached the counter. "Morning, Joe," he greeted with a nod. "I'll have the same as usual, scrambled eggs and a latte, please." Joe chuckled softly. "You got it, Ethan. First time at the Morning Glory?" Ethan smiled, settling onto a stool at the counter. "Actually, yeah, just visiting for a conference in town." Maya's curiosity was piqued. She watched as Ethan received his order, his demeanor professional yet relaxed. There was something about him that suggested more beneath the surface, a depth that wasn't immediately apparent. As Maya continued to review her notes, her peaceful morning was gently interrupted by a subtle shift in the diner's atmosphere. A woman entered, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Maya. She was elegantly dressed, her attire a blend of sophistication and practicality. Her presence exuded a quiet strength, and Maya couldn't help but feel a slight tension as the woman made her way to her table. "Excuse me, Dr. Thompson," the woman began, her voice smooth and composed. "Do you mind if I join you for a moment?" Maya looked up, a hint of surprise flickering in her eyes. She gestured to the empty seat opposite her. "Please, have a seat." The woman sat down, her expression composed, but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "I'm Detective Laura Harris with the town's police department. I apologize for intruding, but we could use your assistance with a matter of great importance." Maya nodded, setting aside her tablet. "Of course, how can I help?" Detective Harris leaned forward, her eyes meeting Maya's with a mix of respect and determination. "It's about the recent incident at the community health clinic. We have reason to believe there might be foul play involved, and your insights as both a medical professional and a community leader would be invaluable." Maya listened intently, her mind already processing the information. "Tell me what you know so far." As Detective Harris recounted the details, Maya's thoughts drifted briefly to the systemic challenges the town faced: underfunded clinics, limited access to specialized care, and underlying tensions that often went unaddressed. She had dedicated herself to bridging these gaps, but it was a constant battle against inertia and prejudice. Ethan, seated at the counter, glanced over his tablet and caught snippets of their conversation. His professional instinct kicked in. He was trained to observe and assess, always ready to step in if needed. However, he chose to remain at his seat, respecting Maya's privacy. Back at the booth, Maya's empathy and keen analytical skills were evident as she offered suggestions and strategies to aid the investigation. Her humility shone through as she deferred credit to her team and acknowledged the collective effort required to overcome the town's challenges. As the conversation drew to a close, Detective Harris stood, her demeanor softening slightly. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Your input is greatly appreciated. We'll keep you updated on any developments." Maya nodded, watching as the detective exited the diner, her thoughts already turning to how she could further support the investigation. She felt a sense of duty, not just as a medical professional, but as a member of the community invested in its well-being. Ethan, observing the interaction from the counter, couldn't help but admire Maya's dedication. He thought about his own role in providing service and the parallels between their professions, both striving to support and uplift others, albeit in different arenas. As Maya finished her blueberry pancakes and sipped her black coffee, she reflected on the delicate balance she maintained between her high-powered career and her humble lifestyle. It wasn't always easy, especially in a society that often judged based on appearances and status. Yet, she found strength in her principles, drawing inspiration from her experiences and the people she served. A subtle tension lingered in the air, unnoticed by most patrons, but palpable to those attuned to the undercurrents of human interaction. The small-town diner, with its unpretentious charm, was about to become the nexus of a series of events that would test Maya's resilience and challenge the very fabric of the community she cherished. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting a golden hue over the diner, Maya felt a sense of anticipation. The challenges ahead were formidable, but she was ready to face them head-on, armed with humility, strength, and an unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Dr. Maya Thompson felt a sense of calm settle over her as she finished her breakfast. The morning had been productive, yet the weight of Detective Harris's request lingered in her mind. She carefully packed away her tablet, ensuring her planner was neatly placed in her bag before standing up to leave. As she pushed open the door to the morning glory, the familiar chime above the entrance welcomed her back into the bustling town. The sun had climbed higher, casting a brighter light on the small-town streets. Maya walked down Maple Street, her steps purposeful but measured, reflecting her inner resolve. Her mind was already racing with strategies and potential collaborations to enhance the community health initiative. Little did she know, the day ahead would challenge not only her professional standing, but also the very principles she stood for. As she approached the community health clinic, a modest building adjacent to the diner, she noticed a few familiar faces among the staff. Maya greeted each with a warm smile and a nod, embodying the humility that endeared her to the town's residents. She entered the clinic, her presence a reassuring beacon for both patients and staff alike. Inside, the clinic buzzed with activity. Nurses moved efficiently between stations, and patients waited patiently for their appointments. Maya made her way to her office, a small yet well-organized space adorned with certificates and photographs from various outreach programs. She sat down, her fingers gently tapping the surface of her desk as she reviewed her notes once more. Her phone buzzed, indicating a new message. Maya glanced at the screen to see a notification from Detective Harris. "Appreciate your cooperation today. We might need to discuss further." Maya took a deep breath, choosing to focus on the tasks at hand rather than the uncertainty that awaited her. Later that afternoon, Maya attended the town council meeting. The room was filled with local officials, community leaders, and concerned citizens. The agenda was packed, but Maya had come prepared to present her new health initiative, aimed at expanding services and addressing long-standing gaps in care. As she stood to speak, Maya noticed a few members of the council giving her side glances. Among them was Councilman Greg Whitaker, a man known for his traditional views and reluctance to embrace change. His expression was stern, his eyes occasionally narrowing as Maya outlined her plans. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for your comprehensive proposal," Councilman Whitaker began, his voice carrying a hint of skepticism. "While your intentions are commendable, I have reservations about the budget allocations and the feasibility of your proposed expansions." Maya maintained her composure, nodding respectfully. "I understand your concerns, Councilman Whitaker. The budget has been carefully planned to ensure sustainability, and we've secured additional funding through private donations and grants to support these initiatives." A murmur ran through the room, some members nodding in agreement, while others remained doubtful. Maya continued, her voice steady. "Our goal is to ensure that every resident has access to quality healthcare, regardless of their financial situation. This initiative will not only improve individual health outcomes, but also strengthen our community as a whole." As she concluded her presentation, Maya felt a surge of relief. The questions that followed were challenging but fair, and she addressed each with clarity and confidence. However, as the meeting progressed, the tension in the room became palpable. Councilman Whitaker's objections grew more pointed, his language subtly tinged with condescension. "Dr. Thompson, your track record is impressive, no doubt. But sometimes, high-level initiatives overlook the unique needs of our local community," he remarked, his tone implying a patronizing dismissal. Maya chose to interpret his comments as constructive criticism. "I appreciate that perspective, Councilman. That's why we've conducted extensive surveys and engaged with local residents to tailor our services specifically to their needs." As the meeting drew to a close, the council voted to approve the initial phase of Maya's initiative, albeit with some reservations and demands for further financial transparency. Maya left the council chambers, feeling a mix of accomplishment and lingering frustration. She knew that implementing meaningful change would require navigating not only logistical challenges, but also entrenched biases. Maya walked out of the clinic, the afternoon sun casting long shadows on the pavement. She was deep in thought when she noticed a group of individuals approaching her. Among them were a couple of local police officers, Officer Daniels and Officer Ramirez, who had been present at the clinic earlier for a routine check-in. "Dr. Thompson," Officer Daniels greeted her, his tone casual, yet holding an undercurrent of something unspoken. "Can we have a word?" Maya nodded, her professional demeanor intact. "Of course, officers. What can I do for you?" Officer Ramirez stepped forward, his expression guarded. "We've been reviewing some reports from the clinic, and there are a few discrepancies that need clarification." Maya felt a flicker of unease. "Discrepancies? Could you specify what you're referring to?" Officer Daniels exchanged a glance with Officer Ramirez before responding. "It's about the funding allocations and some of the medical supplies. There are inconsistencies that don't quite add up." Maya took a moment to process the information. "I'm not aware of any discrepancies. Our records are meticulously maintained, and all funding sources have been documented and approved by the relevant authorities." Officer Ramirez's eyes darted towards Maya, his gaze briefly scrutinizing her. "We've had reports from some staff members suggesting that there might be mismanagement on your end." Maya felt her calm facade wavering ever so slightly. "Mismanagement, I assure you. Every aspect of this initiative has been handled with the utmost integrity and transparency." Officer Daniels leaned in slightly, his tone firm. "We just need to ensure everything is above board, Dr. Thompson. It's part of our duty to maintain accountability." Maya maintained eye contact, refusing to let his insinuations rattle her. "I welcome any review that ensures our operations are transparent and effective. If there are specific concerns, I'd be happy to address them directly." As the officers lingered, Maya sensed an undercurrent of bias in their approach. Their questioning felt less like a routine check and more like a veiled attempt to undermine her authority. She chose to remain composed, but inside, frustration simmered. It was a stark reminder of the systemic challenges she often faced, prejudices that questioned her competence despite her achievements. Officer Ramirez cleared his throat, seemingly satisfied for the moment. "We'll be in touch if we need further information. Thank you for your cooperation." Maya nodded, watching as they walked away. She took a deep breath, her mind racing with thoughts about the possible motives behind their inquiry. Was it genuine concern, or was there an underlying bias at play? Later that evening, Maya returned to the Morning Glory, seeking solace in its familiar ambiance. She sat at her usual booth by the window, her thoughts heavy with the day's events. As she waited for her dinner, she observed the interactions around her, the laughter of friends, the clinking of dishes, and the steady rhythm of daily life. Her phone buzzed with a new message. "Let's discuss the discrepancies tomorrow morning, urgent." It was from Detective Harris. Maya's heart sank. The situation was escalating faster than she had anticipated. Before she could respond, the door swung open, and a new face entered the diner. It was Councilman Greg Whitaker, accompanied by his aide, Lisa. Their presence was unusual, as Councilman Whitaker typically maintained a distance from such establishments. They approached Maya's booth with a polite yet assertive demeanor. "Dr. Thompson, may I have a word?" Councilman Whitaker began, his voice steady. Maya looked up, meeting his gaze. "Certainly, Councilman. What can I do for you?" Lisa, a young woman with a professional appearance, pulled out a chair and sat down across from Maya. "We've been reviewing the recent inquiries at the clinic, and there's growing concern about the management of the new health initiative." Maya felt a pang of defensiveness, but chose to remain calm. "I assure you, everything is being handled with the highest standards of integrity." Councilman Whitaker leaned forward, his tone measured. "While I respect your commitment, Dr. Thompson, some of our residents are uneasy about the rapid changes. They feel things are moving too quickly without sufficient oversight." Maya took a deep breath, recognizing the subtle shift in their approach. Change can indeed be challenging, but it's necessary for progress. We've taken extensive measures to ensure transparency and effectiveness." Lisa interjected, her voice softer but firm. "There's also the matter of the police report. Officer Daniels mentioned some discrepancies, and that's raised red flags." Maya's frustration was palpable, though her exterior remained composed. "If there are specific concerns, I'd like to address them directly with the authorities. Our goal is to serve the community, not to create distrust." Councilman Whitaker's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of condescension in his demeanor. "Of course, Dr. Thompson. We're merely looking out for the best interests of our town. Perhaps a joint meeting with the police department and the council would help clarify these issues." Maya nodded, her professional composure masking the internal turmoil. "I'd be happy to arrange that. Open communication is key to resolving any misunderstandings." As they stood to leave, Councilman Whitaker offered a polite nod. "Thank you for your time, Dr. Thompson. We'll coordinate with you soon." Once they were gone, Maya sat back, her mind racing. The subtle insinuations and overt challenges were clear indicators of underlying biases. Despite her high status and contributions, she was still navigating a landscape fraught with prejudice and systemic obstacles. That night, Maya sat alone in her office, the soft glow of her desk lamp illuminating her contemplative expression. She opened her laptop, typing a message to Detective Harris. "Detective Harris, I've reviewed your concerns and am ready to assist further. Please let me know a convenient time to meet." As she hit send, her phone buzzed again with another message. "Meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Be prepared." Maya sighed, realizing that her professional life was intertwining with personal challenges rooted in bias and prejudice. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. "Come in," she called out. Detective Harris entered, her expression professional but approachable. "Good evening, Dr. Thompson." Maya gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Please, have a seat." Detective Harris took a seat, placing a file folder on the desk. "Thank you for meeting with me, Maya. I wanted to discuss the concerns raised by Councilman Whitaker and Officers Daniels and Ramirez." Maya nodded, her posture relaxed yet attentive. "I'm here to help in any way I can." "What specific issues are they highlighting?" Detective Harris opened the folder, revealing detailed reports and notes. "There are inconsistencies in the funding allocations for your initiative. Officer Daniels found discrepancies in the expenditure logs, particularly in the procurement of medical supplies. Additionally, some staff members have expressed concerns about the implementation process." Maya's heart raced, though she maintained her calm exterior. "I was unaware of any discrepancies. All funding sources are transparent, and procurement follows strict protocols. If there are issues, I'm committed to addressing them promptly." Detective Harris leaned back, her expression thoughtful. "I appreciate your cooperation. However, given the gravity of these concerns, we need to conduct a thorough investigation. This isn't just about ensuring proper use of funds, it's also about maintaining trust within the community." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but kept her voice steady. "I understand the importance of trust and transparency. Please let me know how I can assist in this investigation to clear up any misunderstandings." Detective Harris offered a reassuring smile. "We'll need access to all financial records, procurement documents, and meeting notes related to the initiative. Additionally, interviews with key staff members will be necessary." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. "I'll ensure everything is provided promptly. My goal is to support this investigation fully." As Detective Harris prepared to leave, Maya felt a mix of emotions: determination to clear her name, and a deep-seated frustration at the biases that seemed to undermine her efforts. She couldn't help but wonder if her race played a role in the scrutiny she was now facing, despite her clear track record and genuine intentions. The next morning, Maya arrived at the clinic early, determined to get a head start on addressing the investigation. She walked through the halls, greeting staff with genuine warmth. Her leadership was evident in the way she interacted with her team, listening, supporting, and guiding with empathy. As she entered the procurement office, she found Lisa, her assistant, organizing files. "Good morning, Lisa. Did you receive my email about the meeting with Detective Harris?" Lisa looked up, her expression concerned. "Yes, Dr. Thompson. I've started compiling the necessary documents. There are a few areas where the records aren't as clear as they should be, but I'm working on clarifying them." Maya placed a reassuring hand on Lisa's shoulder. "Don't worry, we'll get everything sorted. Let me know if you need any assistance." Lisa nodded, her gratitude evident. "Thank you, Maya. I appreciate your support." As Maya left the office, she was approached by Officer Daniels and Officer Ramirez, who were there to conduct interviews. Their presence was imposing, adding to the tension Maya already felt. "Dr. Thompson, do you have a moment to answer a few questions?" Officer Daniels asked, his tone neutral. Maya nodded, gesturing towards her office. "Please, come in, let's discuss whatever you need." They sat down across from her, and Officer Ramirez opened his notebook. "We wanted to understand the procurement process for the medical supplies. Can you walk us through the steps you took to ensure everything was in order?" Maya took a deep breath, her mind clear. "Certainly, we follow a strict protocol for all procurement activities. First, we identify the need based on patient requirements. Then, we request bids from approved suppliers to ensure competitive pricing and quality standards. All bids are reviewed by our procurement committee, and the final decision is documented with detailed justifications." Officer Daniels interjected. "There was a specific purchase last quarter where the invoice amount didn't match the bid proposal. Can you explain that discrepancy?" Maya frowned slightly, recalling the incident. "Ah, yes. That was an oversight on my part. We had to expedite the delivery due to an unexpected shortage, and in the rush, there was a miscommunication between our procurement team and the supplier. I took responsibility for the error and ensured that it was corrected. Promptly, I also implemented additional checks to prevent such issues in the future." Officer Ramirez raised an eyebrow, not entirely convinced. "Is there any documentation to support that?" Maya nodded, reaching for the folder on her desk. "Yes. Here are the revised invoices and the meeting minutes from our procurement committee where we addressed the issue." She handed over the documents, her calm demeanor unwavering. The officers reviewed the papers, their expressions unreadable. After a few moments, Officer Daniels looked up. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This clarifies the situation." Maya offered a polite smile. "I'm glad to help. If there's anything else you need, please let me know." As the officers left, Maya felt a sense of relief, but also a lingering concern about the underlying motivations behind their inquiries. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than mere procedural checks. Maya returned to her office, only to find a group of staff members waiting for her. Among them was Dr. Angela Lee, a respected surgeon, and Maria Gonzalez, a nurse with a keen eye for detail. "Maya, do you have a minute?" Dr. Lee asked, her tone professional but laced with concern. Maya nodded, gesturing for them to sit. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Maria took a deep breath. "We've noticed an uptick in patients expressing discomfort with certain aspects of the new initiative. Some feel that decisions are being made too top-down, without enough input from the community members they serve." Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for bringing it to my attention." "How prevalent is this feedback?" Dr. Lee chimed in. "It's not widespread, but it's enough that we need to address it proactively. We want to ensure that our initiatives are genuinely meeting the community's needs." Maya leaned back, her mind racing. "I appreciate your honesty. Let's schedule a meeting with the community liaison team to gather more detailed feedback. We need to ensure that our approach is inclusive and responsive to the residents' concerns." Maria nodded, relief evident in her expression. "I'll arrange that right away." As they left the office, Maya sat for a moment, reflecting on the day's events. Between the investigative inquiries and the emerging community concerns, it was clear that her initiative was facing significant scrutiny from multiple fronts. The subtle prejudices and biases, whether intentional or systemic, were complicating her efforts to bring about positive change. The following week, Maya attended a joint meeting with the town council and the local police department. The room was filled with tension, as representatives from both sides awaited her presentation. Councilman Whitaker sat at the head of the table, his demeanor stern, while Detective Harris stood nearby, her presence a reminder of the ongoing investigation. Maya took a deep breath, standing to address the room. "Thank you all for coming. I understand there are concerns about the recent procurement discrepancies and the feedback from our community members regarding the health initiative." She clicked a button on her tablet, bringing up a detailed PowerPoint presentation. "Firstly, regarding the procurement issues, I've implemented a new oversight committee to ensure transparency and accuracy in all financial transactions. Here are the updated procedures and documentation that address the discrepancies previously noted." As she navigated through the slides, Maya emphasized her commitment to integrity and accountability. "It's imperative that we maintain the trust of our community. I've taken immediate steps to rectify any past errors and prevent future ones." Councilman Whitaker interjected, his tone tinged with skepticism. "While I appreciate the steps taken, it's concerning that these issues arose in the first place. How can we be sure that there won't be further oversights?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "The creation of the Oversight Committee is a significant step forward. Additionally, we're conducting regular audits and ensuring that all procurement processes are double-checked by independent reviewers." Detective Harris nodded approvingly, her earlier reservations seemingly addressed. "This new structure should help in maintaining the necessary checks and balances," Maya continued, shifting to the second part of her presentation. "Regarding the feedback from our community members, I've initiated a series of town hall meetings to engage directly with residents. It's crucial that we listen to their concerns and incorporate their input into our programs." A hand raised from the back of the room. It's Mayor Thompson, Maya's sister, who often acted as a bridge between Maya and the town's administration. "That's a commendable approach. Maya engaging the community directly is essential for the success of any initiative." Maya smiled gratefully at her sister before turning back to the room. "Thank you, Mayor. Our goal is to create a health system that truly serves the people, addressing their needs and ensuring their well-being." As the meeting concluded, Maya felt a cautious optimism. She had addressed the immediate concerns, but the underlying tensions remained. The subtle biases and systemic challenges were not easily eradicated, and Maya knew that her journey toward creating meaningful change was far from over. After the meeting, Maya returned to her office, the day's events weighing heavily on her mind. She sank into her chair, feeling the exhaustion of balancing professional responsibilities with personal battles against systemic prejudice. Her phone buzzed again with Detective Harris's message. "Thank you for the presentation today. We'll continue our investigation based on the new protocols you've implemented." Maya sighed, realizing that the investigation might not conclude soon. As she reviewed her notes, a knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called out. A young woman stepped into the room, her expression earnest. "Dr. Thompson, I'm Dr. Nina Patel, the new coordinator for the Community Outreach Program. I wanted to discuss some of the feedback we've received and brainstorm ways to better engage with the residents." Maya welcomed her warmly. "Please, Nina, I'm glad to have you on board. Let's go over what we've got so far." They spent the next hour delving into the feedback, strategizing on how to address concerns and foster a more inclusive environment. Maya's humility and dedication shone through as she listened and collaborated, reinforcing her reputation as a leader who valued every voice. As the evening wore on, Maya finally leaned back, a sense of accomplishment mingling with residual frustration. "Thank you, Nina. Your insights are invaluable." Nina smiled. "It's my pleasure. Together, I believe we can make a real difference." Maya nodded, her determination renewed. "Absolutely. Let's ensure that our efforts are both effective and respectful of the community's needs." The following day, Maya attended a meeting at the local community center, where residents gathered to voice their concerns and offer suggestions for the health initiative. The room was filled with diverse individuals, each bringing their unique perspectives and experiences. As Maya navigated the discussions, she noticed a few patterns of skepticism and mistrust. Some residents felt that the initiatives were top-down, imposed without genuine consideration of their specific needs. Others were wary of the recent scrutiny surrounding the clinic's procurement processes, fearing that their trust was being undermined. Maya addressed these concerns with grace and empathy, acknowledging the community's frustrations and committing to more transparent and collaborative efforts. "I hear your concerns, and I want to assure you that your voices are integral to the success of this initiative. We're here to serve you, and that means adapting our programs to better fit your needs." One resident, an elderly woman named Mrs. Jenkins, raised her hand hesitantly. "Dr. Thompson, I appreciate your efforts, but how do we know that these changes won't just be temporary? We've seen programs come and go without any lasting impact." Maya met her gaze softly. "That's a valid concern. Mrs. Jenkins' sustainability is at the core of our initiative. We're not just implementing temporary solutions, we're building a foundation for long-term health and well-being in our community. Your feedback will help us ensure that these programs remain effective and adaptable." As the meeting progressed, Maya felt a sense of solidarity building. While the path was fraught with challenges, the genuine engagement and willingness of the community to collaborate offered hope. She left the community center that evening feeling a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that meaningful change required both persistence and patience. A week later, Maya found herself back at the Morning Glory for a quick lunch break. The diner was as lively as ever, with familiar faces enjoying their meals and conversations. She sat down at her usual booth, her mind focused on the upcoming initiatives and the ongoing investigation. As she waited for her order, a man approached her table, his demeanor curious but cautious. He was well-dressed, with an air of authority that set him apart from the regular patrons. "Excuse me, Dr. Thompson," he began, his voice polite but carrying an edge of formality. Maya looked up, meeting his gaze. "Yes, can I help you?" The man offered a handshake. "I'm Marcus Reed, an attorney with Thompson Associates. I understand you've been facing some challenges recently." Maya felt a flicker of unease, but maintained her composure. "Yes, it's been a demanding time, but we're addressing the concerns head-on." Marcus nodded, taking a seat across from her. "I wanted to offer my assistance. Given your prominence in the community and the nature of the inquiries, it might be beneficial to have legal support to navigate the investigation and any potential disputes." Maya appreciated the gesture. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. Your expertise could be invaluable. I'll definitely consider it." He smiled briefly before standing up. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. We're all in this together, striving for the betterment of our community." As Marcus left, Maya felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. The offer of legal support was a welcome relief, but it also underscored the seriousness of the situation she was embroiled in. She took a moment to reflect on the day's interactions, recognizing the subtle and overt biases that had begun to surface despite her efforts to foster transparency and collaboration. Her meal arrived, and she took a quiet bite of her lunch, the simple act offering a brief respite from the mounting pressures. As she looked around the diner, she noticed Ethan Brooks sitting at the counter, engrossed in his tablet. Their eyes met briefly, and he gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. It was a small gesture, but it reminded her that support often came from unexpected places. That evening, Maya returned to her office, the day's events replaying in her mind. She sat down, opening her laptop to draft a response to Detective Harris. Her fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard, crafting a message that balanced professionalism with the urgency of the situation. "Detective Harris, thank you for the meeting earlier today. I've reviewed the discrepancies you've highlighted and am in the process of gathering all necessary documentation to assist in your investigation. Please let me know if there are specific areas you would like me to prioritize. Additionally, I'm scheduling a series of town hall meetings to further engage with our community and address any lingering concerns regarding the health initiative. Transparency and accountability remain my top priorities. Best regards, Maya Thompson." She hit send, feeling a small sense of accomplishment, but as she closed her laptop, her phone buzzed once more with a new message. "Urgent. Need to discuss your meeting with the council. Call me when you can." It was from her sister, Mayor Thompson. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She picked up the phone, her voice calm, yet tinged with concern. "Hi Elizabeth. What's going on?" Elizabeth's voice was urgent. "Maya, we have a problem. Some members of the council are pushing back against your initiatives more aggressively than before. There's talk of delegitimizing your efforts and even questioning your qualifications publicly." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but chose to remain composed. "I'll address it head on. We need to ensure that our actions speak louder than their words. I'll be preparing a statement for the next council meeting." Elizabeth sighed, the weight of the situation evident in her voice. "I know, just be careful, Maya. Some people are taking this personally, and it's getting out of hand." Maya nodded, though Elizabeth couldn't see her. "I understand. I'll handle it professionally. Thank you for letting me know." As she hung up, Maya leaned back in her chair, the full scope of her challenges dawning on her, balancing systemic biases, professional scrutiny, and community expectations was proving to be a formidable task. Yet, her commitment to creating meaningful change remained unwavering. She stood up, stretching her legs, and looked around her office, the symbols of her dedication and hard work. "This is bigger than me," she whispered to herself, "but I won't back down." With renewed determination, Maya set her sights on the tasks ahead, knowing that each step she took was a stride toward dismantling the prejudices and biases that threatened to undermine her efforts. Dr. Maya Thompson's determination had never been stronger. Despite the mounting challenges and the subtle yet pervasive biases she faced, she was resolute in her mission to bring meaningful change to the community's healthcare system. However, the events of the past week had left her feeling increasingly vulnerable, as if unseen forces were conspiring to undermine her efforts. The sun had barely risen, casting a pale light over the community health clinic. Maya arrived early, the weight of the upcoming day pressing heavily on her shoulders. She was greeted by her team, who were already bustling with activity. Dr. Angela Lee approached her, concern etched on her face. "Maya, there's something you need to see," Angela said quietly, leading her to the procurement office. Inside, they found Lisa poring over a stack of documents, her expression troubled. "I found something unusual in the recent invoices," Lisa began. "There's a large sum that doesn't match any of our approved suppliers." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Show me." As Lisa spread the papers across the desk, Maya's eyes scanned the figures. The discrepancy was significant, far beyond what she could rationalize as an oversight. Her mind raced, trying to piece together how this could have happened. "These don't align with our records," Maya murmured, her voice steady despite the rising anxiety. This isn't just a small error. Before Lisa could respond, the door swung open, and Officer Daniels stepped in, flanked by Officer Ramirez. Their presence was immediate and imposing, filling the small room with an air of authority. "Good morning, Dr. Thompson," Officer Daniels greeted, his tone polite but edged with something unspoken. "May we have a word?" Maya stood, her professional composure intact. "Of course, officers. What can I do for you?" Officer Ramirez took a seat, his expression stern. "We've been reviewing the financial discrepancies, and it's clear that there's been significant mismanagement. This level of inconsistency is unacceptable and warrants further investigation." Maya felt her heart race, but she maintained her calm demeanor. "I assure you, any discrepancies were unintentional. We've implemented new oversight measures to prevent such issues from occurring in the future." Officer Daniels leaned forward, his eyes piercing. "Your assurances are noted, but we need to conduct a thorough audit. This includes a complete review of all financial transactions over the past 6 months." Maya nodded, though a sense of dread settled in her stomach. "Understood, I'll provide any documentation you require." As the officers left, Maya turned to Angela and Lisa, her mind working furiously. "This is escalating beyond a simple oversight. We need to find out how this happened and who might be responsible." Angela placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll get to the bottom of this, Maya, together." A few days later, Maya found herself seated in the sterile confines of the local police station, flanked by Officers Daniels and Ramirez. The room was cold and impersonal, the harsh lighting casting stark shadows on the walls. "Dr. Thompson, thank you for coming in today," Officer Daniels began, his tone neutral. "We need to ask you some specific questions about the financial discrepancies we've identified." Maya took a deep breath, her resolve unshaken. "I'm here to assist in any way I can." Officer Ramirez spread out a series of documents on the table between them. "According to our records, there was a significant overpayment to a supplier last quarter. Can you explain why the invoice amount exceeded the approved budget by 25%? Maya reviewed the documents, her eyes narrowing. "That must have been an error in communication. We were facing a critical shortage of essential medical supplies, and I authorized an expedited order to prevent any disruption in patient care. The additional cost was due to the urgency of the situation." Officer Daniels raised an eyebrow. "An expedited order, you say? Do you have documentation to support that claim?" Maya nodded, reaching into her bag to retrieve a file. "Yes. Here are the emergency requisition forms and the communication with the supplier outlining the urgent need." As she handed over the documents, Maya noticed a flicker of uncertainty in Officer Ramirez's eyes. "These documents seem to corroborate your explanation, but we need to verify their authenticity." Before Maya could respond, the door to the interrogation room opened and a new figure entered. Councilman Greg Whitaker, accompanied by his aide, Lisa. Their presence was unexpected and unwelcome. "Councilman Whitaker, what are you doing here?" Maya asked, her voice calm but firm. Whitaker approached the table, his expression stern. "Dr. Thompson, I wanted to discuss these discrepancies personally. It's concerning to see such significant overspending in our community health program." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but chose to remain composed. "Councilman Whitaker, these actions were taken out of necessity to address a critical shortage. Our priority has always been the health and well-being of our residents." Whitaker's eyes darted between Maya and the officers. "Necessary or not, this level of financial mismanagement cannot be overlooked. Our community deserves transparency and accountability." Maya met his gaze steadily. "Absolutely. That's why we've already implemented new oversight measures and are cooperating fully with the investigation." Before Whitaker could respond, Officer Daniels interjected. "Councilman Whitaker, we need to focus on the facts at hand, Dr. Thompson. Are there any other unusual transactions that we should be aware of?" Maya shook her head. "No. These were isolated incidents driven by necessity. We've taken steps to prevent any future discrepancies." Whitaker sighed, his expression softening slightly. "I understand the challenges you're facing, Maya, but we must ensure that our resources are managed responsibly." As the tension in the room thickened, Maya realized that the conflict was reaching its peak. The combination of systemic biases, subtle prejudices, and the pressures of leadership were converging into a formidable obstacle. She knew that navigating this storm required not just professionalism, but strategic action. After a long day of questioning and meetings, Maya returned to her office, exhaustion etched into her features. She sank into her chair, the weight of the day's events pressing down on her. Her phone buzzed with a new message. "We need to meet urgently. Call me." It was from Marcus Reed, the attorney who had offered his assistance. Maya took a deep breath and called him back immediately. "Marcus, what's going on?" Marcus's voice was urgent. "Maya, there's been a development. We've received an anonymous tip suggesting that someone within the community health clinic is manipulating the procurement records. This could explain the discrepancies you're facing." Maya's eyes widened with a mix of relief and concern. "Do you think this is connected to the pressure we're receiving from the council and the police?" Marcus paused, his tone serious. "It's possible there are people who might want to see your initiative fail. If someone inside is sabotaging your efforts, we need to act quickly." Maya felt a surge of determination. "Thank you, Marcus. Can you help us investigate this? We need to identify who might be behind this and stop them before things escalate further." Marcus agreed without hesitation. "Absolutely. I'll start looking into this right away. In the meantime, you should be cautious and ensure that all communications and transactions are documented meticulously." Maya nodded, her resolve strengthened by Marcus's support. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect the integrity of our program and the trust of our community." Late that night, Maya stayed late at the clinic, poring over financial records and procurement documents. The office was quiet. The only sounds the distant hum of the city and the soft tapping of her keyboard. Her mind raced with possibilities, trying to identify any patterns or anomalies that could point to the saboteur. As she reviewed the records, a name repeatedly caught her eye. Rebecca Simmons, a new member of the procurement team. Rebecca had been with the clinic for just a few months, and Maya had assumed she was a reliable addition to the team. However, the inconsistencies pointed towards someone with access and knowledge of the system. Maya's heart pounded as she considered confronting Rebecca, but she knew she needed more evidence. She decided to call Marcus, sharing her findings and seeking his advice. "Marcus, I think I've found a lead," Maya said, her voice steady, despite the anxiety bubbling inside her. "Rebecca Simmons has been involved in all the transactions that show discrepancies. I believe she might be manipulating the records." Marcus listened intently. "This is a significant breakthrough. We need to approach this carefully. Do you have any reason to suspect Rebecca beyond these records?" Maya shook her head. "Not yet, but these patterns are hard to ignore. I need to gather more evidence before taking any action." Marcus agreed. "Good. Keep documenting everything and avoid confronting her directly until we have a clearer picture. I'll start looking into her background and any possible connections she might have." As Maya hung up, she felt a flicker of hope. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, and with Marcus's help, she was confident they could uncover the truth. The following morning, Maya arrived at the clinic, determined to address the brewing conflict head-on. She gathered her team for a brief meeting, outlining the recent developments and emphasizing the importance of transparency and teamwork. "We're facing an internal challenge that threatens the integrity of our program," Maya began, her voice firm. "Rebecca Simmons has been identified as a potential source of the discrepancies. We need to handle this delicately to avoid unnecessary confrontation and protect the clinic's reputation." Angela nodded, her expression serious. "What are our next steps, Maya?" Maya looked around the room, her eyes meeting each team member's. "We'll continue to monitor all transactions closely and ensure that all communications are documented. If anyone has any concerns or notices anything unusual, report it immediately. We need to stay vigilant." As the team dispersed, Maya's thoughts turned to the broader implications of the situation. The systemic biases and subtle prejudices she had been battling were now manifesting in more overt ways. She realized that her fight was not just against individual obstacles, but against a deeply ingrained system that sought to undermine her efforts. At the next town council meeting, the atmosphere was tense. Maya stood at the podium, prepared to present her latest findings. Councilman Whitaker was present, his expression guarded but attentive. "Dr. Thompson, thank you for your continued efforts," Whitaker began, his voice neutral. "Can you provide us with an update on the recent financial discrepancies?" Maya took a deep breath, her resolve unshaken. Yes, Councilman. After a thorough internal review, we've identified a potential internal source of the discrepancies. Our investigations have pointed towards a member of our procurement team, Rebecca Simmons. We're working closely with legal counsel to address this issue and ensure that our operations remain transparent and accountable. The room buzzed with murmurs, some showing support, while others expressed skepticism. Whitaker's eyes narrowed slightly. Dr. Thompson, are you suggesting that someone within your team is sabotaging our health initiative? Maya nodded solemnly. Yes, Councilman. It's crucial that we address this swiftly to maintain the trust of our community and ensure the success of our programs. Before Whitaker could respond, Detective Harris entered the room, her presence commanding immediate attention. Councilman Whitaker, Dr. Thompson, we have additional information that corroborates Dr. Thompson's findings. Our investigation has confirmed that Rebecca Simmons has been manipulating financial records to divert funds for personal gain. The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Whitaker's expression hardened, his earlier skepticism replaced with concern. This is a serious allegation, Dr. Thompson. What steps are you taking to rectify this? Maya met his gaze, her voice resolute. We've terminated Rebecca Simmons from her position and are working with law enforcement to ensure that all fraudulent activities are addressed. Additionally, we're implementing stricter oversight measures to prevent such incidents in the future. Whitaker nodded slowly, his demeanor shifting from confrontational to cooperative. I appreciate your prompt action, Dr. Thompson. It's essential that we maintain the integrity of our community programs. As the meeting progressed, Maya felt a sense of relief. The identification of Rebecca as the saboteur had not only clarified the source of the discrepancies, but also reinforced her position against the systemic biases she had been battling. However, she knew that the true test was yet to come. That evening, Maya returned to her office, exhaustion weighing heavily on her. She sat down, reflecting on the day's events and the internal battles she had fought. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Good work today. We need to meet soon to discuss the next steps. Maya typed a quick reply. Agreed. Let's meet tomorrow morning. As she prepared to leave, a shadow loomed in the doorway. Maya looked up to see Officer Daniels standing there, his expression unreadable. Dr. Thompson, we need to speak with you, he stated, his tone flat. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Of course, officer, is everything all right? Officer Ramirez stepped forward, his demeanor stern. We've reviewed the additional information provided by Detective Harris, and it appears that Rebecca Simmons was not only manipulating financial records, but also involved in unauthorized distribution of medical supplies. Maya's heart raced. What does this mean for the clinic? Officer Daniels's eyes met hers with a chilling finality. We have sufficient evidence to arrest her for fraud and embezzlement. Given the severity of her actions, we're also looking into whether there was any larger scheme to undermine your initiative. Maya felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. Is there anything I can do to assist further? Officer Ramirez shook his head. At this point, all necessary actions have been taken. We'll handle the legal proceedings from here. As the officers left, Maya realized that the conflict was far from over. The revelation of Rebecca's actions had clarified the immediate issue, but the systemic biases and the scrutiny from authorities continued to cast a shadow over her efforts. The next day, Maya arrived at the clinic to find the atmosphere more tense than ever. News of Rebecca's arrest had spread, and whispers of her possible connections and the investigation's implications were rampant among the staff and patients. As Maya made her way through the clinic, she was approached by Lisa, who looked visibly shaken. Maya, I just wanted to say, thank you for handling everything so professionally. It's been a tough time for all of us. Maya offered a reassuring smile. We're in this together, Lisa. We'll get through it. Before Lisa could respond, Councilman Whitaker entered the clinic, his presence commanding attention. He approached Maya with a mix of respect and lingering tension. Dr. Thompson, Whitaker began, his voice measured. I wanted to personally commend you for your swift action in addressing the discrepancies. It's unfortunate that it came to this, but your dedication to transparency is admirable. Maya nodded, her resolve unshaken. Thank you, Councilman. Our priority has always been the health and well-being of our community. Whitaker hesitated for a moment before continuing. I also wanted to discuss the future of the health initiative. With the recent events, some council members are reconsidering the funding allocations. They believe that perhaps a different approach is needed to avoid further complications. Maya felt a flicker of frustration, but chose to respond with professionalism. I understand the concerns, Councilman. However, I firmly believe that with the new oversight measures in place, we can prevent any future issues and continue to provide essential services to our community. Whitaker nodded thoughtfully. Your confidence is noted, Maya. We'll discuss the funding further and determine the best path forward. As Whitaker and his aide left, Maya felt the weight of the ongoing scrutiny pressing down on her. The subtle and overt biases were becoming more pronounced, threatening to derail her efforts despite her unwavering commitment. Later that afternoon, Maya was preparing for another meeting when her phone buzzed with a new message. Urgent. Emergency meeting at 3 p.m. Be there. It was from Marcus. Maya felt a sense of urgency. She quickly made her way to Marcus's office, finding him already seated with a stack of documents. Marcus, what's going on? Maya asked, her concern evident. Marcus looked up, his expression grave. There's been a leak. Someone within the clinic has been sharing information about our internal investigations with the media. We've traced it back to an anonymous source, but we haven't identified them yet. Maya felt a surge of anger. Why would someone do that? Are they trying to sabotage our efforts? Marcus nodded. It's possible. With the heightened scrutiny from the council and the police, someone might be trying to tarnish your reputation and undermine the initiative. Maya clenched her fists, struggling to maintain her composure. This is exactly what I was afraid of. We need to find out who's behind this and put an end to it. Marcus leaned forward, his tone firm. I agree. I've already contacted a cybersecurity expert to help trace the source of the leaks. In the meantime, we need to be extra vigilant about our communications and data security. Maya took a deep breath, her internal struggle between anger and maintaining professionalism evident. Thank you, Marcus. We'll need to tighten our protocols and ensure that only essential personnel have access to sensitive information. As they worked together to address the crisis, Maya felt the full weight of the conflict pressing down on her. The systemic biases and prejudices she had been battling were now manifesting in more aggressive ways, threatening to dismantle everything she had worked so hard to build. That evening, Maya returned home, exhausted but determined. She sat down in her modest living room, the contrast between her professional life and her humble abode stark yet harmonious. Her phone buzzed with a new message from Elizabeth, her sister. Maya, I just heard about the leak. Are you okay? If you need anything, I'm here. Maya typed a quick reply. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate your support. It's been a challenging week, but we're managing. As she set her phone aside, Maya reflected on the day's events. The heightened conflict had pushed her to her limits, testing her resilience and unwavering commitment to justice and equality. She knew that the path ahead was fraught with obstacles, but her resolve remained unbroken. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again with an incoming call from Marcus. She answered promptly. Marcus, what is it? There's something you need to see, Marcus said, his voice urgent. Come to my office immediately. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. I'm on my way. She hurried to the clinic, her mind racing with possibilities. When she arrived, Marcus was waiting for her, his expression serious. We've made a breakthrough, he announced. The cybersecurity expert traced the leaks to a device planted in your office. It appears someone had physical access to your workspace. Maya's eyes widened. Do you have any leads on who it might be? Marcus shook his head. Not yet, but we're working on it. The device hasn't been tampered with, so we can analyze it for fingerprints and other identifying information. Maya felt a surge of determination. We need to find out who is behind this and why they're not going to stop until they achieve their goal. As Marcus began the analysis, Maya's thoughts turned to the broader implications. The systemic biases were no longer subtle. They had become overt attempts to derail her initiative and discredit her leadership. She realized that this was not just about a single incident, but about a larger battle against ingrained prejudices that threaten to stifle progress and equality. Hours passed as Maya and Marcus waited for the results of the device analysis. The clinic was quiet. The only sounds the distant hum of traffic and the occasional call of an owl outside the window. Maya sat in her office, her mind focused and her resolve unwavering. Finally, Marcus returned, a folder in hand. "We got the results. It appears that the device was planted by someone with access to your office, someone who knows the layout and security protocols." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Do we have any suspects?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet, but we have some clues." The fingerprints on the device matched those of Rebecca Simmons, the person we identified earlier. Maya felt a surge of anger and betrayal. Rebecca. But she was arrested and charged with fraud and embezzlement. How is she connected to this? Marcus frowned, his mind working through the implications. It's possible that Rebecca had accomplices, or that someone else is using her as a scapegoat to divert attention from their own actions. We need to dig deeper into her connections and any possible associates. Maya's resolve hardened. This isn't over yet. If someone is using Rebecca to tarnish my reputation and sabotage our initiative, we need to expose them and protect the integrity of our work. Marcus nodded, his determination matching hers. "We'll leave no stone unturned. I'll coordinate with the cybersecurity team and the police to gather all possible evidence." As Maya and Marcus delved deeper into the investigation, the stakes continued to rise. The conflict had reached a critical juncture, and the pressure was mounting on Maya to not only protect her initiative, but also to confront the systemic biases that sought to undermine her efforts. At the next town council meeting, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Councilman Whitaker was present, his expression more open than before, but still cautious. "Dr. Thompson," Whitaker began, addressing the room, "I wanted to provide an update on the recent developments within the community health clinic." Maya stood, her presence commanding attention. "Councilman Whitaker, I'd like to update everyone on the ongoing investigation. We've identified Rebecca Simmons as the source of the financial discrepancies, and it has come to our attention that there may be further attempts to undermine our initiative through malicious actions." The room fell silent, the gravity of her statement sinking in. Maya continued, her voice steady and resolute. "Our investigation has revealed that there may be individuals within our own system who are working against our efforts to improve community health. This is not just about financial mismanagement, it's about a deeper systemic issue that threatens the integrity of our programs." Councilman Whitaker nodded thoughtfully. "This is indeed concerning, Dr. Thompson. We must ensure that our initiatives are protected from internal sabotage and that the community can continue to trust the services we provide." Maya met his gaze, her determination clear. "Absolutely. We're implementing stricter security measures and oversight protocols to prevent any future incidents. Additionally, we're seeking external audits to ensure transparency and accountability in all our operations." As she concluded her statement, Maya felt a sense of accomplishment. She had faced the heightened conflict head-on, revealing the systemic corruption that threatened her efforts. However, she knew that the battle was far from over. The systemic biases and subtle prejudices that sought to undermine her mission were deeply entrenched, and Maya was determined to dismantle them, one step at a time. Later that evening, Maya returned to the clinic, her mind focused on the next steps of the investigation. As she walked through the quiet halls, she was approached by Dr. Angela Lee. "Maya, I wanted to congratulate you on how you handled the council meeting today," Angela said warmly. "It takes immense strength to confront these issues so directly." Maya smiled, appreciating Angela's support. "Thank you, Angela. It's been a challenging time, but we have to stay committed to our mission." Just then, her phone buzzed with a new message. "Meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow, important." It was from Marcus. Maya looked at the message, her instincts telling her that this was the moment she had been preparing for. She knew that decisive action was needed to bring the conflict to its peak and set the stage for the climax of her battle against the systemic biases and corruption. As she prepared for bed, Maya felt a sense of anticipation and resolve. The heightened conflict had reached a critical point, and she was ready to take the next step in her fight for justice and equality within the community health system.